Hello, fellow teachers. Welcome to MTNA 2022 online. My name is Liz Craig, and I'm coming to you from my home office in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. My accelerated learning session is called How to Teach Almost Any Pop Song on the Piano in 20 Minutes. This topic I feel is very practical for today's students. They all want to learn pop music and they want to learn it quickly. They don't want to have to deal with reading a bunch of complicated notation. They just want to get into playing, which is what I'm going to show you how to do right away. All right, so first of all, I wanted to show you a few different types of sheet music that you may encounter when you're learning pop music. This is probably the most common and what you might gravitate to initially when you first have a student come looking to learn a pop song. You might go to musicnotes.com or even a music store and look for an anthology from an artist. The most common form for sheet music is like this. So it has our chord symbols, it has the chord tabs, the vocal line, and then a piano reduction of sorts. It's really not much of a reduction because it tries to play everything all at once and rhythmically usually looks pretty complex. This type of thing can really discourage a student from learning a pop song. So I would discourage you from jumping to this right away unless the student is extremely comfortable reading music. The next type of sheet music that you will be able to find very easily and for free is a lyric sheet. So to find this, all you have to do is Google the name of the song, the artist, and the word chords. The very first link will be to a site called Ultimate Guitar Tabs. And on that site, you're going to get a list of the lyrics along with the chords above them, as you see here. So this is Hallelujah by Leonard Cohen. We have our C major, our A minor, and they are approximately above the word where the chord changes. This, again, is very easy to find. Students will find this quickly, but it doesn't give us a lot of information. It really only gives us a sense of the chords and where they change. So my third and last example of sheet music that you can use is a lead sheet. Now, this is my favorite, but it's the hardest to find. You probably won't find this unless you do a lot of digging. There's a lot of Beatles music that's out there in lead sheet form. Sometimes there's extremely easy versions of this where the notes are written out, like there's a little C and a G inside the note. But to find good lead sheets takes some time, especially for pop music. For jazz, totally easy with the fake books. But for pop, what I find is if you create a lead sheet, it's actually really easy to use. The student will learn the song extremely well, and it's pretty fast. So that's what I'm going to show you today, is how to create this lead sheet and learn the song very quickly. And here is the 6-step process that I'm going to use. So I'm going to go through each of these steps, give you some ideas of what you could do at each step of the process. Also, ways you can adjust this for students that may be a little bit more of a beginner student and not have experience as much with chords, but we will go through that right away. So when your student comes to the lesson, they mention a song that maybe they've been listening to lately that they might want to learn. I think this happens all the time, right? And if not, I would encourage your students to start talking about it. Maybe ask them, what was your favorite song to listen to this week? All of them have, some kind of device with Spotify or Apple Music, and they're listening to things. So it's good to tap into, what really motivates them and they enjoy listening to. In the lesson itself, definitely listen to the original music, not a piano cover. This is my first big tip. A lot of teachers will look for a piano cover, or even students, that's the first thing that they will search for is a piano cover, maybe on YouTube, but that will limit us severely from the get-go. So I would recommend just listen to the original. And as you listen, see who can find the key first. This works really well on online lessons because you can each mute yourself, go to your keyboards or pianos, see if you can play along, see if you can figure out, okay, are there black keys? Yes, okay, it's not C major. And start whittling down your options. Of course, there's only really 12 options. See who can find the key first. It might be your student, or it might be you. Once you've found the key, see if you can find 1, 4, 5, and 6 within that key. And those are most likely, I'd say about 90% of the time, going to be the chords that are in the song if you're learning a pop song. So say you found the key of C major. That'll be easy to do. You find the C chord, 4 chord would be F chord, 5 chord would be G chord, and our 6 chord is minor, and that would be A minor. See if the student can find these without your prompting. If you need to prompt a little bit, or even explain a little bit theory-wise what these 4 chords are, go over that. Maybe your students are already familiar with those things, then they can find them pretty easily. So we're going to listen to the song, we're listening, and as we're listening, seeing if we can find those chord changes. That is step 1. Step 2, once we've done a little bit of exploring and listening together, we're going to confirm the chords that we figured out. We may be, teachers and students, we may be not 100% sure that what we found is exactly what is the right chords or in the right key. So the next step is to Google to find that lyric sheet that I mentioned a few slides back. This lyric sheet is for the song Perfect by Ed Sheeran, which was a very popular song a few years ago. I personally played it, probably played it for about 50 different weddings. It is super beautiful and really, really nice to learn. It does have 4 chords like the typical pop songs do. So we see our verse. It'll tell you where the verses are, where the pre-chorus is, or the chorus and the bridge. We have our lyrics. We have our chords notated above the lyrics. And what I would do is have the students start playing through those chords and see if they work, see if they match what we figured out before. So this is perfect. This example is actually not in the original key. So quickly you would find out that they're in not the original key. The original key is actually A flat. So that gets us to step 3, comping along. So we're still listening to the original song. We're going to find the chords in the key that is in that song. We're going to find out pretty quickly it's not G and E minor, but it's actually one half step higher, G sharp, otherwise known as A flat, F minor. And so here's another thing that I don't like so much about guitar tabs is that everything is sharps. They don't use flats at all. So your student, it's an opportunity to really know their enharmonic notes and to make sure they know that G sharp and A flat major are the same thing. It's still using 1, 4, 5, and 6. We just want to make sure we're in the right key of A flat and go from there. Next thing is to play the chords in different ways. So here is a quick list of some different ways you could play the chords. Very easiest would be just the bass notes. So say you're in the key of A flat, we're using 1, 4, 5, and 6. We would have A flat, we would have F for the 6, D flat for the 4, E flat for the 5, and the student would just have to track, okay, where are we in the song? What word are we on? And we're playing that bass note along with it. I would say most beginner students, as long as they know flats and sharps, can do this level. The next level would be open fifths. So now they have to have a bit more of a sense of, okay, what that perfect fifth is from those bass notes to get the outside of the chord. Next step would be root position chords solid. So now they have to have a sense of, okay, what's major and minor. They have to be able to move quickly between those chords as well, which brings me to solid chords in the closest inversion. They're going to quickly figure out that if they go to a closer inversion, it's actually a lot easier. But of course, they have to have that knowledge and they have to have played that a little bit in their technique so they have a sense for where that closest inversion is. The last 2 on this list are the ones that I use the most when I'm playing a pop song. So what I'll do is I'll take my left hand, I'll play almost like a 4-note chord, but I'll leave out the 3rd. So I'll break up the root, the 5th, and the octave. Let me go over to my piano over here and show you a little bit what I mean. So say I'm playing an A flat major chord. Instead of doing a solid chord or a 5th or just a single note, I would spread my hand a little bit wider and I would play the bottom A flat, the 5th, the E flat, and the high A flat. So I break that up and it gives us a really nice way to change our chords. Here's F minor, here would be that D flat, E flat. So if the student is really comfortable with spreading to an octave, this can be a really nice way to play the chords in our left hand. Another way is for the right hand to actually do those chords in close inversion and the left hand to do octaves. So for A flat, I would have my A flat octave and maybe first inversion here. And that gives us a really nice full sound that they're going to enjoy. Then maybe for our sixth chord, I would go here. That's our F minor, D flat, E flat. And you'll see I've started to put in a little bit of rhythm and playing around with it. The more they can do this, the more fun they're going to have with it, the better it's going to sound. So when they're listening to that song, right now I'm playing the songs of, again, Perfect by Ed Sheeran. When they're listening, they're going to get a sense of the mood they want to capture with these chords. Maybe they'll add some fancy things in like that, where I added the sus4. Of course, if they don't know about that, they can't add it in. So use what the student already knows and go from there. And that's our chording options. All right, so once they've played around with the chords a little bit, the next step is to look at the structure. So we're going to actually start creating a lead sheet with the form and the chords in the right places. This takes the guitar tab lyric sheet to the next level, because now we're going to see how each chord has a certain number of beats to it, and there's going to be a space left for our melody to fill in. Also, the student will have to be aware of where the verses are, what the chorus is, maybe there's a pre-chorus, and the bridge, which is usually a little bit different. All right, so here's an example that you could quickly put together with, there's an online program called flat.io that I really like using. It's completely free and very quick to use, or you could also just use plain staff paper, whatever is easiest and most available in the moment. So what I've done here is just blocked out my chords. They each get one bar. Typically with pop music, that's going to be the case. Sometimes some chords will have a longer rhythm than others. So that's where this analyzing process comes in. The time signature I've analyzed for this piece to be 12/8, which is a bit more of a complex one. For other pieces, most pieces, they will be 4/4. It's pretty rare to find a pop piece that's in 3, but they do exist. So it gives the student a chance to really see what the commonalities are and see how their piece fits into this structure. So that is the structure. And step 5 is our melody. So you'll notice up to this point, we haven't even talked about the melody at all. I really like to get that structure and the harmony in place first. Then, depending on the student, they may want to notate the rhythm first or the pitches first, and not even the rhythm at all, which is completely fine, because with most pop music, they have it in their head of how it goes. They don't actually need to notate the rhythm. They're going to remember that as long as they know what the pitches are. But we want to make sure we're putting the pitches in the right measure with the right chord. Oftentimes with pop music, there's a lot of ties if you look at the written out music, because there's words that carry over into the next bar, notes that carry over, and then words that don't start on beat 1. So without having to analyze that, because that can get very complicated, all that I want my student to do is put the right notes in the right box. If they have the lyrics there, that may even be easier, because they can really focus on what they're hearing at every moment for the lyrics. So here is a student example. This is one of my students who wanted to learn Perfect by Ed Sheeran. We looked at the chords, we did those first few steps together in the lesson, and it took maybe about 10 or 15 minutes. And then she went back on her own and she actually created this within 1 week. So she has written down the pitches that she heard. She heard the pickup notes, she heard the melody within that A flat bar, the melody within the F minor bar, and so on. And she went. Now it's a little bit squishy, but she could read it and she could play it for me the following week. And that's what matters. If she wanted to notate the rhythm, it might have taken a lot longer and she might have gotten really frustrated and stopped. So I encourage them just to put the pitches in into the correct box and then be able to play it from there. She's also notated the order at the bottom. She told herself, okay, there's the verse, then I'm going to play the pre-chorus, the chorus, and then go back to verse 2. So she planned out what her different sections are, so she doesn't have to write for pages and pages. She can just go back. And this actually took only about a top half of a sheet music blank staff score. So it didn't take that much music to write, but she had the whole song notated in 1 week. If the student doesn't want to do this on their own, of course you could do it with them or get them started, or maybe give them a smaller task like just the verse or just the chorus to write down. And step 6 of our process is to add flair. This is the fun part. This is where they can take that lead sheet that they've written, or if they haven't written it, the melody that they've learned by ear, they could try adding chord tones to the melody. They could try changing octaves, maybe filling in gaps, creating interludes, using passing notes in the bass, perhaps. That's always a nice one, especially if you're going from, say, the 1 chord to the 6 chord. There's always that passing note in between. Perhaps using different chording methods for each section. Maybe the verse is a little bit more subdued, so they might want to do solid chords and just hold them, whereas the chorus is a bit more animated, so they might want to add more rhythm there. They could add different chord colors. I do this all the time. I love doing this, adding suspensions, adding sevenths, adding those nice crunchy moments that we can resolve. That might take a little bit more harmony knowledge from the student, but things you can sort of suggest and hint at if they're ready for. The most important thing is to let your instincts guide you, because this really is the fun part. You're really playing the song from your heart based on how you heard it and making your own arrangement of it. And that's the most special thing. All right, so just to recap here, 6-step process. And this, I do believe you can do within 20 minutes with your student. Listen to the song, listen for the chords, listen for that chord change. Confirm the chords and the key for yourself using Ultimate Guitar Tabs online or other online sources. Or if you have the sheet music already, you could also confirm with that, just more sources to help you confirm what you've heard. Comping along with the chords, so trying different ways of playing the chords that suit the style and suit the student's difficulty level. The structure of the song, understanding where our verses come in, how many choruses there are, what the bridge is like. Then the melody, putting in all of those notes that the student hears the artist singing, right? They're mostly going to be sung in the original song. So we're taking that and we're seeing if we can notate that and transcribe it. And then playing along and adding flair, letting the student really own the process, and maybe they'll come up with some things that you hadn't thought of that sound really, really good. All right, so that's my 6-step process. Maybe what I'll do is I'll go back to my piano here and just show you some of these flairs that you could do with perfect. So I have my melody coming in. I know it starts on A flat. I like adding those chord tones there. Sus. As you can see, my left hand's doing that 5th. Whoops. Forgot the chord for a second there. That's F minor. Now we're back to D flat. Back to E flat. And I'm just going to stay with the verse again, because I'm going from ear right now, which isn't my strong point. I like having something written down for me. F minor. That's not quite the melody, but I improvised. Improvising an interlude. Going to F minor. Passing no. F minor is the first chord in the chorus. So for myself, I also have to know, okay, where does the chord pattern change? For the verse, it's different than the chorus, so that's something unique in this piece, that it goes back to F minor. All right, so hopefully that gives you a few ideas of what you could do with this process in learning pop music, and that you can try this out with your students at your next lesson. Please enjoy, and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much. Take care.